Kia ora koutou. Before we start this meeting, I just want to acknowledge Brett Latimer, who has done these lovely nameplate stands, and he is the Open Spaces and Facilities Manager. He's been an employee at council for 40 years, I hear, and they're made from Totara from Maidstone Park. So I just want to acknowledge that mahi and that significance that they've just been made. Welcome to this extraordinary meeting of council. It's been convened under standing order 8.3 as the business cannot be delayed until the next ordinary council meeting due to statutory and operational timeframes for the adoption of the annual report and confirmation of the proposed road closure. I'm going to open the meeting with a karakia. Whakataka taho ki te uru, whakataka taho ki te tanga. Kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, ihi ahi ana, ti atapura, ihi hio, ihi uka, ihi hohu, ti hei, mauri ora. With the housekeeping on the screen. Oh, the housekeeping's just on the end of the screen. I won't repeat it, but you all know what to do. So all members are present. So members are reminded, moving to item 2, members are reminded that they must declare any interest that may arise between their roles as members and any private or other external interest that they have. If any interests are declared, members should stand aside from decision-making related to any such interest. Do any members wish to declare a conflict of interest with any of the items today? No. So item 3, adoption of the annual report 2024 to 2025. We have a report from the Group Manager, Engagement Strategy and Planning Services on page 7 of the agenda. We also have an additional memo that's come through in the last 2 hours. So we can give some time in the room to read that, but good to show hand over to you first, or should we have time to read? What would you prefer? Read it first? Yes. Okay, so we'll have some time to read. Just give me a wave when you're finished so that I can get a sense of everyone's had a chance to read that. We'll just adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Just for those online, we've had a brief adjournment to allow elected members to read the additional memo containing the audit opinion, which came through after the agenda was published. So what we'll do now is I'll hand back over to the manager, Gunther Wild, to speak, and then we'll have Audit New Zealand provide some additional background, and then after that there'll be an opportunity for questions. So just to clarify the next step, but I'll hand over now to Brett Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Zay. Just through the Mayor, I'd just like to briefly introduce key staff who have been involved with the preparation of the annual report this year. They're sitting at the back here. From left to right, we have Sarah Tunnicliffe, who's our Financial Controller, Emily Thompson, our Manager, Strategy, Planning and Policy, and Harman Singh, who's our Senior Corporate Planner. Now, I will hand over to my colleague, Group Manager, Corporate Services, Kate Thompson.
I just want to take the room through what we've done to get to today, and so I'll take you through those. First of all, I would like to introduce Audit New Zealand is online. Debbie Bradfield is the appointed auditor from Audit New Zealand. This is Debbie's first year with Upper City Council, and Jaco Mininkis is the audit manager. I hope I got your surname right, Jaco. Jaco has been our audit manager for 3 to 4 years at least now, and so I just wanted to welcome them to the room. Debbie's based in Christchurch, Jaco in Wellington. I would like, if possible, to take you to the cover paper, the adoption of the annual report 24-25. Paragraph 4 sets out there the purpose of the annual report. We're comparing what we actually did with what we said we'd do in the long-term plan and annual plan. Para 6 there just highlights that at the time these papers were issued, auditors were still working through their review and final checks. There were no changes made of substance to any of the financial numbers after these papers were published. The changes that have been made are of changes to technical language, disclosure improvements in the language. So there's no changes of substance. And I think the only other paragraph I'd draw your attention to is paragraph 23. We are 1 hour away from being non-compliant if we do not, if the council, not we, if the council does not approve this annual report today. So just draw your attention to that. And paragraphs 24 to 27 set out the risks associated with this exercise. The next in your papers, the next is the draft annual report. The full report is included. As I say, there's been no substantial changes to the what was published earlier in the week. I won't go through the detail. I will wait for questions later on. The second attachment here is the summary report. So we're required to publish a full annual report, which discloses everything, and then we have a summary annual report. Auditors required to audit both the summary and full annual report, so those are provided here. So that is what is contained in those papers. In the paper you've just received this morning and read today, there are the 2 audit opinions from the auditors, which were received today, which indicate they are happy to sign the audit reports, both audit reports, and they set out the basis on which they're happy to sign the audit reports. I will just say at 3 o'clock we received, and I tabled these, the audit opinions for both the summary and the full, with Debbie's signature on them. So Audit New Zealand are happy with the work that we have submitted. And what was I going to say next? So we've got the two audit opinions. They've got two qualifications in them and two emphasis of matter. I'll come back to those. And then this is a relatively new report. We haven't had this before like this, which you got today as well. Further detail will come, and that will normally would go to the Risk and Insurance Committee, but we're in a new triennium, but that will go back to the equivalent of that committee with a more fulsome report underneath it. But we provided it today to give one assurance on what audit has found and what they focused on for this audit, and it gives a high level summary of their conclusions that they have brought. So that is the papers. The other thing that happens in the audit process is that the entity, and in this case the entity is the Upper Hutt City Council, has to make representation as to what it is we're giving the auditors to review. So the representation letters say that we are giving them true and as accurate as we can information and data and information, really. And so those two letters get signed, the summary letter and the full representation letter are signed by the Mayor and the CEO every year. That happened this morning. The Mayor and the CEO signed them. They then are submitted back to Audit New Zealand, which happened about lunchtime. And on that basis, as I say, Audit New Zealand will then issue an opinion because we are standing by the information we have provided is accurate and fair. There is one quirk that I would draw your attention to here, and we've highlighted it on page 25, right, post-balance date events, note 21. It's the final note, and it's before the impact statements. My papers, it's page 179. And there it says the 2025 local election, and it says local government elections were held in October 25. The final result was published on the 16th of October 25. Terry Zay was elected mayor for a 3-year term. 4 new councillors were elected: Angela McLeod, Daniel Welsh, Corey Wright, and Pat Dylan, thank you. And so I just draw your attention to that because normally you have your mayor sign the opening introduction statement and the financial statement. In this case, it is appropriate that the previous mayor sign the introduction because it was the previous mayor that saw the year through, and that introduction is about the activities and events of the prior year, 24-25. But as I've said, the representation is at this point in time, and that was signed today because it's based on the work done since, and that is appropriate that the new mayor sign the representation letter and the new mayor sign the financial statements. So you will see different mayors throughout the document. We've been through this and we are comfortable that we've got the right signatures in the right place, appropriate. But that issue. Just drawing your attention to the audit opinion. We, in the document you received earlier today, I'll just go to page 3, and there to the readers of the Upper Hutt City Council Group's annual report for the year ended 30 June 2025. It is an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is a good result, and a result we should be proud of. There are 2 qualifications. The qualifications are on the non-financial elements and on service provision. It sets out there what they are. One is about the total number of complaints received about water supply, wastewater and stormwater. This is a reoccurring qualification. It is a qualification that councils that are shareholders of Wellington Water have received for a number of years, and we continue to receive. Then the second qualification was the average quality of a ride on the sealed local road network measured by smooth travel exposure. It's a new qualification, and it was received by ourselves and Hutt City Council. A qualification, just by way of background, a qualification arises when we as council cannot provide Audit New Zealand with the data or the evidence that the work has been done. So that's why you receive one. I then draw your attention to the emphasis of matters. We've got 3 emphasis of matters there, and an emphasis of matter is really given when the auditors wish to draw the reader's attention to the subjects and there is uncertainty about the future. So uncertainty over the fair value of 3 waters. Again, we received this as a matter last year. It has also been received by, I know Hutt City have received it and Wellington City have received the same emphasis matter. Inherent uncertainties of greenhouse gas emissions. 2024, that was a qualification and has now been reduced to an emphasis matter. The future of water delivery is, my understanding from Audit New Zealand, and they can correct me, is this is a pretty standard emphasis of matter for councils, given where water reform is at. So basically, in summarising, I would just like to say the changes we've made since we published these are minor, and as the original paper says, really we are at the position where we're ready for the council to approve the draft report for 24-25. Any questions that we have, we can take later, but the questions are highly, highly unlikely to change what we publish and what has been agreed with audit. They will be if there are changes, they are minor changes that we will need to incorporate in any updated document. So with that, I will now hand over to Debbie to speak to her work and her report. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for giving me the opportunity today to meet you all, as well as to present the audit reports. As Kate has indicated, there are 2 audit reports, one for the summary, one for the annual audit. You'll notice that the matters included in both are basically the same. The audit report's also the same as the prior year, with one additional matter, which relates to one additional qualification. So if we stand back, what we're basically saying, if you take a snapshot of those audit reports, is saying is the financial information, we are 100% happy with, nothing to highlight, no concerns. From the statement of performance, which is your performance information, or we basically indicated there that your complaints measure as well as your smooth roadness measure, that we just couldn't get sufficient information to audit those. But as a collective, as a whole collective, actually everything else is actually fine from performance information perspective. The emphasis of matter are pretty standard in the local government sector. There's nothing really to highlight in that space. All it basically says is in your annual report, you have included some additional information and we just want to highlight that to the users. So from a standpoint, I think we are all quite happy where we've landed. And I think a lot of hard work and effort from the teams, both teams have worked quite well to get to this point. And I also want to thank the council as well as the team that helped prepare this, because as indicated, a lot of work went into this, and I think we've all landed in a really good space. So that's all in terms of the audit report that I'd like to highlight, as well as from an audit perspective.
Thank you. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go to questions, and just to be clear for our new members, that we'll go to questions and then we can, after we've moved the motion, we'll go to comments on. So at this point, it's just questions. Do any members have questions? And pop your hand up. And any questions? Councillor Swales.
Thank you, Chair. I have some questions for Audit New Zealand, and normally when you draw, I'm talking about page 21, that you've highlighted some service reports where not enough evidence was, or discrepancies in the information was provided. In previous reports, we've had commentary come back from our officers as to how they're going to amend that or work through it. And I don't see anything in this report. Was that something that was discussed or not? That's my first question.
Debbie, I'm happy to start with an answer. Through you, Your Worship. You say this was issued at about 11 o'clock this morning. It is designed to be a report that gives council a snapshot of audit work. Traditionally, we've received this after this stage, and we get the right of reply. That will, Debbie, I understand that will still happen, but we thought it was useful to give this as an like I say, a level of assurance that the work has been undertaken and we're audit focused and what their findings are. So to answer your question, yes, we have the right of reply. We just haven't got to that step yet.
Do you have anything to add, Debbie?
No, Kate has addressed the question appropriately.
Thank you, Chair. So when do you think we might have that, and what committee would it come back to? Because it'd be really good to know that we're closing the loop on an issue, and still have other questions as well. But I want to take them one at a time.
It'll come back to the council in December. So it's
Okay. Thank you.
do you have another question? Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
Are we now going into the actual report?
You have the floor for questions if you
Yeah, I do. So the question that I have, and I did raise it before, is that Main Street is up for sale. And on page 126, Remission's Economic Development Stimulus Package, we've given them a remission. Because it's up for sale, I am questioning if it is repurposed, what happens with the agreement that we have? Also, is that passed on to the new owner? And I still have further questions after that.
Okay.
For Your Worship, the Lane Street agreement is specific to the current owners. So if it is sold, there will be a different arrangement.
Thank you. I'd now like to go to page 152, please. And my question on page 152, when we talk about council's most recent estimate of the replacement cost of infrastructure assets is under Hutt Valley wastewater, we don't seem to have a figure for 25 or 24. And knowing that these are replacement costs, it would be good to know what we're looking at.
For you, we get that figure from Hutt City, and we're just waiting for that figure to come in. It doesn't impact anything that's been around.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
No problem.
So, and then I'm going to page 157, which talks about the council infrastructure assets. And I know it's talking about our assets. And once again, if we look at the Hutt Valley wastewater, and it says go to note 9G, I can't find note 9G. Could someone tell me where that page is, please?
For you, Worship, if you cannot find note 9G, that's an error we need to correct.
Through you, Your Worship. 9G is now 10G. All of our notes have changed numbers. We will now find just looking at the top number, 158. Bottom number, 151.
I've got a councillor Carey and you had a question.
Thanks, Your Worship. I guess I'm reading the intent that materially it won't change, then just like a clarifying question. And an example being page 18, I've lost it now, but the planning and reporting schedule where the dates seem a little bit wrong on that graphic. Is it going to be easier if we're firing through some of the things that we've identified like that after this versus taking it all now?
Yes, that would be helpful.
Great.
Well, how many minutes have we got till 5 p.m? Councillor Thad.
So my question is just around the timing. You know, I noted the comment that we've got 45 minutes now until we're non-compliant, but why is it this late? Just a little explanation.
Through you, your worship. Upper Hutt, stepping back, Upper Hutt City Council was always audited after Hutt City is audited. That is the way that we fall in the line of things. We need their figures to be incorporated in our report because of the joint venture with wastewater. So the order of events is normally that. I will let Debbie answer the question after I've had a go. And then this year, and so Upper Hutt is always close to the 31st of October. This year we're perhaps a little bit later because of maybe the election and the swearing in of the new council. It just fell at a time where this is the date we are at. So it is unfortunate, but it is just the cycle we got into this year.
Debbie, would you like to?
I don't think there's any further comment. I think it's just the way we've landed in terms of election year and how everything just fell in terms of the planning and where we landed from an audit perspective.
Any further questions? That's all.
You through Chair. Just one other question, and it's on page 220 that talks about monitoring and reporting. It seems to come up every time that whenever we do surveys, we have KPIs that we're measuring ourselves against. We appear to underperform. And my concern is we keep registering these underperformances, but we never seem to have an answer. It's a bit like our response to some of the things here. It would be good to know whether we have a work program in the schedule in the next year that will address some of these things. And that's particularly under the groups which.
Can I take that away, please?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. No further. Oh, okay, so we.
Thank you, Lucy. Just on the audit report on page 5, and we talked about solutions there. I think mentioned about the total number of complaints received through water, wastewater, and stormwater. Now, there obviously is a set of rules for this, and they'll be counted differently. And they were done differently last year as well. So the question is, why are we doing it differently, and why haven't we enacted on the recommendations?
You are talking about the total number of complaints received about water supply, wastewater. I might defer to my CEO actually. My understanding is it's the way we count it and the way, the way Wellington Water is capable of counting the complaint. But the CEO can probably expand.
That's through your worship. The answer is the same as last year, and that is that when we get a request for service coming in, that gets sent to Wellington Water as a complaint, and we may get other complaints related to that event. The question is that one event, or is it the number of multiple complaints about that one event? And that's the issue. We're capturing each one as they come through the door. Wellington Water, as our delivery agent, are tending to aggregate those so that multiple complaints from now might be one complaint from their perspective.
But it mentions about set of rules. There's a set of rules, a guideline that you follow. We don't follow it, or we.
For you, worship, I am not entirely sure what those set of rules refer to, other than this has been an ongoing matter for almost as long as we've been using Wellington Water as our service agent, and it is something that gets picked up almost in every audit.
One.
I don't think we've finished the question.
Thank you, Your Worship. On page 54 or 48, we are very low on a resident satisfaction with safety in the city centre. This really should only be talking about the safety, not with satisfaction with safety remains low due to ongoing concerns about vacant shops, poor urban design, and the lack of critical repopulation effectively undermine residents' sense of security. Perhaps that question should be reclassified because we have nothing to do with empty shops, and it's people's safety that we really have should be looking after rather than who owns the shops.
Your Worship, that can be taken away, but that was the question for this year and asked in the plan, so we're reflecting in the report what was asked in the plan, so we could look at it a different way in the future, but this is a reflection of what was asked in the plan and not how it's come out. Does that make sense? So it's actual, so we planned this question, now we've answered that question. Because remember, this is a report on the activities we undertook.
Follow-up question.
So,
Thank you, Your Worship. It's actually screwing out what people aren't feeling unsafe, they're just not happy.
Thank you for extending what I can answer.
We'll move on. Councillor Carey.
Just a quick clarification here is to accept the report and the matters, not the actions and how we resolve them, is my understanding of this.
Yeah. Would you like to take the individual recommendations separately, or can we take them all together? We'll just put them up on the screen. Take them together. Everyone happy to take them together? Just separate them. Okay. So we'll move to the screen. So I move that council receives the report, part of the adoption of the annual report 2024 to 2025, receives and notes the tabled independent auditor's report and report to council on the audit of Upper Hutt City Council from Audit New Zealand for the year ending 30 June 2025. Approves the annual report 2024 to 2025 and summary annual report 2024 to 2025 under section 98 of the Local Government Act 2002, and authorise staff to make any consequential amendments to the annual report 2024 to 2025 document based on direction at this meeting, and to correct any minor editorial, typographical, arithmetical and or formatting errors that identified before publication. Councillor Carey. Do any members want to speak for or against the motion? All those in favour say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. Is there any abstentions? I declare the motion carried.
Thanks for that.
So please, now I have a comment about this report. It's not a question or anything you would say, and I thought we were going to do it before we voted, but that's okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to make, if that's all right.
Sure. Yeah.
I would like maybe the group manager to give an explanation around why we're changing the reporting structure, just for those that are not familiar with moving to a EIPSAS 41. I actually had to read and look that up, and it gave me some clarification, but for those that maybe don't, I thought that it would be quite good to actually take people on a journey, because when I read that at the beginning, I thought it made a few things a little bit clearer for me. I don't know if it's good for other people. The other note that I would like to make is that can we please have some sort of communication strategy, because to have a paper, and I do appreciate your worship that you gave us the opportunity to read it. But, you know, we need to be able to know that these papers are coming out late and that, you know, they're going to be on the agenda. So I would certainly appreciate some sort of comm strategy, whether it's, I mean, we can't have our Outlook on our phones and things like that. I do not have my tablet, my iPad up with me all the time, and I'm not quite sure how my other colleagues work. If we could look at that, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, that second point we can take out and then anyone like to address
I
the
think
third
that's
point?
a question for audit
Yeah.
to answer,
Okay.
actually.
I'll direct that to
Okay.
audit.
And the other thing is, it would be really good if there were a lot of questions that were put here and posed, and the officers are going to come back to us. If we could capture those, these things are caught in one stream, and we normally get the answers back in an email, but it doesn't actually articulate to the community what the answers were that we got, Your Worship. So if we could capture those things somewhere by an action list or something like that with our minutes, I think would be quite appropriate. And then the answers come back at our next meeting. Thank you.
Better take that out of the room. Yeah. Or just defer to audit for the answer to the first question.
I didn't catch the first question clearly. What was the question?
Thank you, Debbie. It was around, you know, why we're changing our reporting system, that we've got to this new system, PB.
Oh, yes.
IP, is it? Yeah.
Okay, so basically all it really does is previously we used to issue one massive document towards after the audit, basically about a month after the adoption. And what we found is that there was a need from leadership, from a council perspective, to know a little bit more in terms of high level aspects. So what we did this year is we changed the reporting format and split the report into two, saying the one report, which is the report you received this morning, it's just a high level report, just linking back to the audit report and how we came up with these high level aspects in terms of which fed into the audit report and where we've actually landed. The other report, basically, which will be issued at a later stage, is just basically all the recommendations that management need to consider and all the items we discussed during the audit process. So we've basically split it out to keep it from what is important, what is key from your perspective, to more the mundane operational aspects. We've split it out, which will come at a later stage. That was the highlight in terms of the change in the report going forward, and which identified today.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 4. So I'd like to thank Debbie Bradfield and Jaco Bridges for joining us. I think we'll move on to our item 4, temporary road closure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So for item 4, we have a report from page 242 of the agenda, right at the back. I'll hand over to Group Manager Tim Hardy for any updates or comments on that report.
For you, Worship, so I'm not taking a report of thread. This is a thing that's been happening with the Cosmopolitan Club for a number of years, and it's just a timing cycle here. We'd normally go to the road closing subcommittee and get approved. There is no such thing at the moment, so we just need to go through the council process. Happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Do any members have any questions on this item? Fantastic. So yeah, so Councillor Carey, happy to move those recommendations, and Councillor Holness to second. Anyone want to speak? No. Okay. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
No. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. We'll now close the meeting with Karakia. Karakia tātou ipu. On the screen. I'll just wait for it to get up on the screen. So now if you want to. Unahira, unahira, unahira ki te uru tamanui. Ka wātia, ia mama, e tinana, te wairua, e te ara takatu. Kia wātia, ka wātia, airara, Karakia, Karakia, Paima. Thank you. So we forgot one thing, formally close the meeting, do I have to, at 4:31, there we go.